What's going on, everyone? Welcome to QVO Games. My name is Juan. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it so much. This video is going to be about the games going to retail the week of March 12th. We have a great lineup of games, one that I missed last week, one that's I don't really have a release date for, but it was released and it's a special announcement because I know there's like people want this game and there's like some limited copies of like the Kickstarter Collector's Edition, which has like deluxe fight components, all that jazz, all that good stuff. So let's get this video going. If you are a publisher and you want your games featured in this video, reach out to me through email. It should be down in the description below, and just let me know the week prior of your game's release date, right? So if it releases on Monday, I don't know, Monday or Tuesday, Wednesday, reach out to me the Friday prior to that. That way I can make sure to include it. I typically record these videos on the weekend, and I post them by Monday-ish. Monday morning or Monday afternoon, typically Monday morning. However, if I get committed, I post them a little bit later. So, next thing to keep in mind, I'm covering the games coming to retail in the US. Therefore, if these games have already been released in other regions of the world, you may have already seen coverage about these games. You may already own these games, went to a convention they were released earlier. That could happen, and it does happen sometimes a lot. We get the games later in the US, other parts of the world get them later. That's how it happens. Kickstarter people who back the game get it earlier as well. Keep in mind there is a global shipping crisis going on. Therefore, some of these games may have release dates that may get pushed back, or they may just get pushed back in general to like a farther back date, depending on the publisher's decisions. Keep in mind, I will make sure to update you when that happens. If I find out a game is pushed back, I'll make sure to update you of the new release date in its respective video. Awesome. Let's get these games showcased. First things first, the special one that's out this week is going to be Oros by Ash Games. That's how you pronounce that, Ash Games. Oros, Collector's Edition. A lot of people want this game. This game was on Kickstarter, and there's a Collector's Edition on their website that you can pick up. I want it so bad, but I can't because it's definitely a big price tag that I just cannot afford at the moment. And it's going to be a great game about strategy, and this has a lot of action economy going on. The Kickstarter edition, of course, has all the deluxe FUD components and all that fancy stuff that everyone enjoys and loves. However, there is a retail edition if you can't afford this one. I can't afford either. I've spent too much money already as it is. So it's going to be Oros, a strategy game. You're going to be working against each other as competing players, and you're going to be trying to achieve and build sacred sites on mountains. And that's going to grow your wisdom, your ability, your power to gain points. First person with a lot of points at the end of the game wins. Look at these nice components. These look gorgeous. I like how this looks already. I wish I could, but I just cannot. If you can, pick it up. This is already out. You can pick it up on the website at this moment as we speak. If you're watching this video after this week, they might not be there. So pick it up today. Coming up next is a game I missed from last week. Is Doctor Who Nemesis by Gale Force 9 Games. Doctor Who Nemesis. So if you're a Doctor Who fan, this game is for you. This game is what was released actually over the weekend previously, but I missed it and decided to put it into the video just to make sure you guys are aware. Doctor Who Nemesis, you're playing as a nemesis in the Doctor Who series, and you're trying to get your evil scheme or plan to flourish and be a thing. And the way you do that is by playing different cards. You have a deck of 40 cards, and you're going through playing heroes, playing against, and doing your card action against those heroes, or trying to collect components to develop this upgrade or mechanical thing, or collect upgrades to try to get your scheme going. Doctor Who Nemesis. It's pretty straightforward. You're playing as different nemesis if you like Doctor Who. I have never watched Doctor Who. I plan to because a lot of people recommend it. But if Doctor Who is your thing and that is something you really enjoy to watch, I don't see why not trying this game is not a bad idea. They also have another big line of like other Doctor Who games as well that I have yet to try myself. However, like I said, this is more of a game if you're a fan and you like card games and a little bit of deck building, this is going to be your game for you. Pre-constructed deck building, not during the game. You don't deck build during the game. A little bit of area control as well because you're fighting over doing actions and sending out your minions and such. So this game, there's also a lot of coverage for this game, so I would recommend checking that out before you consider buying it. This was released over the weekend and is available for you to purchase today. Coming up next, Power Rangers deck building game by Renegade Games. This is going to be released on March 13th, which is Monday, the day you should be watching this video. Power Rangers deck building game, S.P.D to the Rescue expansion. I always talk about this. I'm a fan of Power Rangers. I grew up watching Power Rangers and I love it so much. I have almost every expansion for Power Rangers deck building game. I like the game a lot. However, I also enjoy the IP. So take that bias for how it is. So this is just going to add a couple more cards, new characters. some new villains to play as, and new things to add to your deck building experience with the game. That's really it. I don't think it adds any new mechanics or anything like that. It just doesn't look like it adds anything too crazy. Just more cards, more expansion, more variety when you play the game, if you play it a lot. I like the game, but I don't play it as often as I could because I don't get a lot of players sometimes who want to play a Power Rangers game. So, Power Rangers deck building game S.P.D to the Rescue expansion is going to be coming out March 13th. And coming up next is going to be G.I. Joe deck building game New Alliances, a Transformers crossover expansion by Renegade Games. Coming out March 14th. Yeah, so this comes out on Tuesday. So G.I. Joe deck building game. This deck building game is similar-ish to the Power Rangers one with some different mechanics. This is part of like Renegade Games' like expansive crossover universe thing they're doing. They kind of cross over like their RPGs now, and they're doing it with Transformers and G.I. Joe. If you're a fan of Transformers and G.I. Joe, this is probably up your alley. So the G.I. Joe game, you're playing cooperatively, not like the Power Rangers game where you're playing competitively against each other and dueling off. In this one, you're playing cooperatively, working together to go up against a certain type of scenario or mission. And now you can bring your Transformers cards into the play. That's pretty wild stuff. Like, I love crossovers and stuff like that. I'm just not the biggest fan of G.I. Joe and Transformers. So that's kind of like my bias there. But it doesn't mean the game's not bad. I think the game is actually pretty interesting. It plays pretty cool as well. I got to try it one time. The G.I. Joe, not the Transformers one. The Transformers looks interesting as well. But I played the G.I. Joe one, and it's cool. I could not afford to like buy all the Power Rangers deck building stuff, then now also buy all of these G.I. Joe stuff as well. And also, I'm not that big fan of G.I. Joe. I like Transformers, but not that big fan of that either. This is going to add a couple more. It's going to add actually a way to kind of cross over your Transformers and your G.I. Joe stuff. And now you can play as Transformers while playing as your G.I. Joe characters, as well as having the Transformer transform into a vehicle where your G.I. Joe characters can actually ride in, and you kind of do that cooperatively and try to fulfill the mission. Pretty cool, interesting stuff going on here, right? This is going to be a crazy crossover, and I really appreciate the fact that they're doing this. This is awesome. This is new. This is different. Have a big like crossover of different genres and games. That's cool, and I appreciate that. It's going to be G.I. Joe deck building game New Alliances, a Transformer crossover by Renegade Games, coming out March 14th. Say that 10 times fast. Holy smoke, that's a long title. Coming up next is going to be Revived by Aporta Games. So I was on Aporta's website and they texted me directly to Matago. So this is kind of like where I'm going. I'm assuming Matago is probably helping distribute, but I think Asmodee is distributing in the US. I may be wrong there. Just keep in mind this game is going to be released. Revive is going to be released on March 17th. Revive. I was looking through the stuff and I did not show you a cover here. Revive is going to be a game where you have asymmetric powers and abilities, and your goal is to reach the ancient cities and repopulate them. And the game itself plays over a series of campaign missions, right? There's like 5 different missions, and it's a competitive game, asymmetric as well. And once you play the game all the way through, you have like an indefinite board, and like your experience is now molded by that. I love games that provide that experience. I know legacy games usually provide that, but I don't like ripping my components. I don't mind it because that's part of the experience. You buy it for that reason, but you kind of have to do that in legacy games. You rip it up. In Revive, though, you're playing a series of campaigns, a series of scenarios that is a campaign, and through that campaign, you get like a developed experience at the end. It seems and sounds interesting. I love even the way the board looks there. You have, like I said, you're playing asymmetrical characters, but however, you don't even have to play with the same players every time. You can play with different players the whole way through, and it still will give you a really fun and interesting experience. The game itself is a deck building / a little bit of bag building. There's a little bit of everything, and it's a Euro style game. So even with asymmetric powers, tech tracks, and upgraded abilities, you don't really have any player interaction or a head-to-head interaction. This is a game I have on my radar. I really want to try it at least once and really just play it and dive into it. I have learned to appreciate, and I love it when a game is a competitive game, but can still provide a really interesting like campaign experience. I think Cloud Age does that pretty well. I'm not sure that I know this is provided a little bit with Scythe's expansion, which I believe is called Fenris, the Fenris one. I'm probably wrong there. Do not quote me on that. But they do it with that. But I think that one turns it cooperatively. I have to look into that. And I love how Cloud and My Father's Work does it as well. My father's like, even though I played that game twice, and I'm not trying to find out if I do or don't like it, it does do that where like it has a series of campaign as you're playing a competitive game. Revive is doing something similar to that with 5 sessions. I also just love and want to see how this game plays. I love tech trees. I love upgradable abilities. It has dual layer player boards. It has the whole shebang. And I don't even think this is the Kickstarter version, just the retail version. This is Revive, a Euro game coming out by Aporta Games on March 17th. And last one, the Forgotten Age Investigator expansion for Arkham Horror, the card game by Fantasy Flight Games, coming on March 17th as well. This is just going to be an upgrade to the expansion. The Arkham Horror, the card game, is a living card game. If you love Cthulhu or you love all these, the name is slipping my mind at the moment. It's games with Cthulhu, Mythos, all that stuff, and you like a card game, I think I like Arkham Horror. That's a good one. However, keep in mind, it's typically a campaign-style game, and if you play one session, you are meant to play the whole session out with your other friends, like as in that group is meant to be played the whole way through. So it's not really a game we can just pick up, play a session, put away, bring it out with some new friends. And this is going to be an Investigator expansion, which adds new playable characters to your campaign. That's really it with this. It's just an expansion to the Arkham Horror card game, which I think is a really good card game. I really enjoy it. Coming out March 17th. And that's it. We are at the end of the video. So we had a pretty good lineup of games. And I think some of these that, for example, Oros, already able to pick up. I know a lot of you probably going to want to pick that up already. I mean, it's talked about everywhere right now. It's a little bit of the hotness. And as well as, I can't wait for Revive because I want to try Revive really bad. That's a game I really want to try out. And I really hope it doesn't disappoint me because I have really high hopes. So, if you made it this far into the video, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. That's actually very, very helpful. More helpful than a like, but I would like a like, and more helpful than a comment. But drop a comment and let me know what games are you picking up this week. If you're picking up one of these games, maybe you had one on your radar. You're like, oh, I've been wanting this game, but I'm saving up some cash to buy that game. Let me know. I would love to hear and talk about it and hear it in the comments. Thank you for watching the video. I appreciate it, and have a great one.